This isn't just another affair story, this is my truth. A truth I've carried in silence, hidden from my wife, my family, and even myself for years. He was my cousin brother, someone I should have never crossed the line with. Yet, desire doesn't ask for permission, and what happened between us became the biggest secret of my life. Today, for the first time, I'm telling the world what I swore I'd never say out loud. I never thought I'd be writing this down, much less sharing it with anyone. For years, I've kept this secret locked away in the deepest part of me, afraid of what it says about who I am and what I've done. It's the kind of story that, once told, changes everything. But maybe that's why I'm here now, older, more self-aware, and finally ready to lay bare the truth. The truth is this: I crossed a line with someone I never thought I would. My cousin brother. We grew up almost like siblings. Our families were close, and holidays, birthdays, and endless summers meant we were constantly thrown together. He was always there, taller, a little older, confident in ways I never was. If I was quiet and reserved, he was bold, reckless, and full of life. I admired him, maybe more than I should have, even back then. As kids, we'd share secrets under blankets, whispering in the dark until sleep took us. By the time we were teenagers, the bond between us had deepened in ways that were both comforting and complicated. He understood me in ways nobody else did. He could read me with a single glance, knew when to tease and when to stay silent. It was that closeness, the intimacy of shared history, that became the seed for something I never expected. Something I never intended. The first time it happened wasn't dramatic. There wasn't some heated moment or sudden declaration. It began in the most ordinary of ways. We were both in our 20s by then, adults with our own lives but still finding excuses to meet whenever family events brought us back together. That night, it was just the two of us, sitting outside after everyone else had gone to bed. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth. It had rained earlier. We were drinking, laughing, slipping easily into the rhythm that always felt like home. And then, without even realizing how we got there, the laughter faded into silence. He looked at me differently. Not with the playful mischief I was used to, but with something heavier. Something that made my chest tighten. I tried to look away, but he didn't let me. You ever feel like, he started, then stopped, shaking his head with a half smile. Like what? I asked, my voice too quiet. Like there's more between us than just family. The words hung between us, raw and dangerous. My stomach flipped. I wanted to deny it, to laugh it off, but I couldn't. Because deep down, I knew. I'd always known. That night changed everything. It began with a touch, his hand brushing against mine, lingering too long to be accidental. My pulse raced, my skin burned, but I didn't move away. In fact, I leaned into it. The kiss that followed was hesitant at first, almost testing. But when I didn't resist, when I kissed him back, it ignited something neither of us could control. The world around us disappeared. The only thing that existed in that moment was the forbidden electricity between us. Even as it happened, guilt clawed at me. He was my cousin. We were family. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong. And yet, the more I tried to convince myself to stop, the more impossible it became. That night, we crossed a threshold we could never uncross. We didn't sleep much. We didn't even talk much after. The silence was loud, but it wasn't awkward. It was filled with unspoken agreement. What happened would stay between us. Always. And for years, it did. We lived our separate lives, building careers, starting relationships, putting on the masks society demanded of us. But whenever we found ourselves in the same space, that current returned, undeniable and dangerous. Sometimes, it ended with stolen moments, an embrace that lasted too long, a kiss hidden in the shadows. Other times, it was enough just to know that we weren't alone in this secret. The guilt never left me. I'd lie awake at night, replaying what we'd done, torn between regret and the undeniable truth. I wanted it. I wanted him. And that's the part one could never admit to anyone, not my closest friends, not even myself, most days. Because admitting it meant facing what I'd become, a man who had betrayed every boundary of family, loyalty, and morality. But at the same time, it was also the most real thing I had ever felt. That contradiction, between guilt and desire, shame and truth, is what kept me silent all these years. Until now, I know people will judge me. They'll call me disgusting, immoral, twisted. Maybe they're right. Maybe I deserve every bit of condemnation that comes my way. But for once in my life, I need to stop hiding. I need to tell the story the way it really happened. Because this isn't just about what we did. It's about who we became because of it. And it all started with that one night. If chapter 1 of my life with him was that night, the night everything shifted, then chapter 2 was the long aftermath. The secrecy, the temptation, the dangerous balancing act of living two lives, the one everyone could see, and the one we guarded like it was our oxygen. The morning after that first kiss and everything that followed, I remember feeling split in two. On the surface, nothing had changed. The family bustled around as usual, preparing breakfast, teasing each other, pretending everything was normal. But beneath it all, I couldn't look at him the same way. Every glance was charged, every word carried weight, and yet, nobody noticed. It was both terrifying and intoxicating. We didn't talk about it immediately. There was no big discussion, no attempt to justify or explain. It was as if we silently agreed that whatever had happened was too big to name. But the silence didn't mean it was over. If anything, it made the tension sharper. The next time it happened was weeks later. A family gathering again, everyone crowded into one house, laughter echoing through the rooms. He and I ended up outside on the porch late at night, like we always did. It felt almost rehearsed at that point. The moment the chatter died down, we drifted toward each other, pulled by a magnet neither of us could resist. This time, there wasn't hesitation. No careful testing of boundaries. His hand found mine quickly, firmly, like it belonged there. And when he kissed me, it was hungry, desperate, as though weeks of restraint had finally broken him. I didn't resist. I couldn't. What we did that night was reckless. The house was full of people who trusted us, family who would have been shattered if they knew. But we weren't thinking about them. In that moment, all I cared about was the way his hands felt on me, the way I melted into him as though I'd been waiting for it all my life. We swore it would be the last time. Every time, we swore it. And every time, we broke that promise. That's how it went for years. Stolen moments at weddings, quiet touches during holidays, late-night whispers in rooms where we should never have been alone. Nobody ever suspected a thing. To the outside world, we were just close cousins, maybe even unusually close. But inside, we carried a secret that defined us. Sometimes I wondered if he ever felt the same guilt I did. He carried it better, if he did. For me, it gnawed at the edges of my conscience, keeping me awake at night. I'd think about what would happen if anyone found out, how it would destroy not just us, but everyone we loved. And yet, the next time we were together, all that fear evaporated the moment he touched me. It wasn't just physical. That's the part most people would never understand. Yes, the physical side was powerful, addictive even. But it was the emotional bond, the intimacy of knowing someone so completely, that made it impossible to walk away. He knew me better than anyone else ever had, or ever would. Being with him felt like being home, even when home was the last place it should have been. We found ways to protect our secret. We never texted or called about it. Never left trails. When we were apart, it was as if nothing had ever happened. But when we were together, we didn't need words. Our bodies spoke the language we weren't allowed to. Years passed like this. We each had our separate lives, separate relationships. He dated women, I did too. At times, I even convinced myself that what we had was just a phase, a mistake, something we'd grow out of. But the truth was, it was the one thing I couldn't escape. There were moments when I hated myself for it. I'd sit across from him at a family dinner, listening to him joke with our parents, watching him pour drinks for uncles and aunts, and I'd think, if they only knew. I'd feel the shame burn in my chest so fiercely I could barely breathe. But then, later that night, I'd find myself in his room again, unable to resist the pull. And he'd whisper against my skin, "Nobody ever has to know." That became our unspoken mantra. Nobody would ever know. For a long time, that was enough. Enough to keep going, enough to justify the risk. But deep down, I think we both knew secrets like ours don't stay hidden forever. The longer we kept it up, the heavier it became. And yet, neither of us had the strength, or the will, to stop. Because the truth was simple, even if it was dangerous, I loved him. I loved my cousin brother in a way I wasn't supposed to, in a way that broke every rule and crossed every line. And no matter how much I tried to bury that truth, it always found its way back to me, in his touch, in his kiss, in the way his eyes locked onto mine when nobody else was looking. That was our life. A series of stolen moments, silent promises, and a secret that bound us tighter than blood ever could. The years slipped by faster than I ever imagined. What started as a reckless secret between us became something woven into the fabric of my life. But as time went on, the walls closed in. The life I built on the outside began to clash violently with the one I was living in the shadows. I met a woman, fell in love, or at least, I thought I did. She was beautiful, smart, full of warmth. For a while, being with her felt like a chance to rewrite myself, to bury the secret of my cousin brother and start over clean. When we married, I swore to myself that it was the end of that chapter. That whatever had happened between us belonged in the past. But some things don't stay buried. The first time it happened after I was married, it destroyed me inside. It was during a holiday gathering, the kind where everyone stayed over, sleeping in spare rooms and on couches. I had been doing so well, avoiding him, keeping my distance, telling myself I was strong enough. But one late night, I found myself outside again, standing under the stars with him, just like old times. He didn't even have to say anything. The look in his eyes was enough. I resisted at first. I told him I couldn't, that I had a wife now, a life I couldn't risk destroying. He listened, nodded, and for a moment I thought he understood. But then he reached for my hand, his fingers brushing against mine, and all my resolve crumbled like it always did. I betrayed her that night. I betrayed the vows I had spoken so confidently at the altar. I went back to him, and once again, I let desire silence everything else: guilt, morality, loyalty, reason. When I slipped back into bed beside my wife later, I couldn't sleep. My body was still humming from him, but my mind was drowning in shame. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering how I could live with myself. And yet, the very next time we were together, I let it happen again. That was the cruel cycle of it: guilt, restraint, surrender, repeat. Every time I swore it would be the last, but every time he pulled me back in. Maybe it wasn't just him. Maybe I wanted to be pulled. The worst part was how well we kept up appearances. To everyone else, we were model cousins, family who shared jokes, beers, and memories. My wife adored him, trusted him. She never once suspected what was happening right under her nose. That innocence made the betrayal cut deeper. I tried to create distance. I buried myself in work, pretended to be too busy for family visits. But avoidance never lasted. Family has a way of pulling you back together, whether you like it or not. Weddings, funerals, reunions, life always gave us another opportunity, another chance to slip back into each other's orbit. And each time, the hunger between us grew worse. It wasn't just physical anymore. It was emotional, dangerous. He'd send me these looks across the room, small, fleeting, but enough to make my heart race. He didn't need to say it out loud. I belonged to him in a way nobody else ever could. That truth haunted me, because even as I held my wife, even as I smiled for family photos, I knew a part of me was never truly hers. It belonged to him, the one man I could never claim openly. I started drinking more, blaming the stress of work. The truth was, I needed something to dull the war inside me. Some nights I'd sit alone with a glass in hand, wondering how my life had come to this: married, respected, outwardly successful, but living with a secret that could burn everything to the ground. There were times I thought about confessing. Not to my wife, God, no. That would have destroyed her. But to someone, a friend, maybe, a therapist, just so I didn't feel so alone carrying this weight. But the words always died in my throat. How do you even begin to explain something like this? How do you tell someone that the one person you can't live without is the one person you're forbidden to have? The older I got, the more complicated it became. He dated women too, sometimes seriously. I remember once, at a family barbecue, he brought a girlfriend along. She was sweet, affectionate, holding his hand like she knew she had him. I smiled politely, made small talk, but inside I was unraveling. Watching him with her felt like being stabbed with a knife I had handed him myself. Later that night, when we finally stole a moment alone, I couldn't stop myself. "You really like her?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He smirked, shrugged, and said, "She's fine. But she's not you." Those words wrecked me. Because as much as I wanted him to move on, to set us both free, a selfish part of me needed to hear exactly that. We were tangled in a web neither of us knew how to escape. A web built on love, lust, guilt, and blood. And the deeper we got, the more impossible it became to imagine a life without it. I often wonder if that's what true infidelity really is, not just the act of betraying someone you love, but the inability to stop even when it costs you your soul. Because by then, I wasn't just cheating on my wife. I was cheating on myself, too, on the version of me I thought I was, or wanted to be. And yet, no matter how heavy the guilt, the secret was ours to keep. Ours to carry, ours to protect at any cost. Even if it meant destroying everything else along the way. There's a certain thrill that comes with secrets, an adrenaline rush, a heightened awareness, a constant edge. But over time, that thrill curdles into something else, paranoia. By the time I reached my 30s, the weight of what my cousin brother and I carried wasn't just guilt, it was fear. Fear of being caught, fear of slipping up, fear of watching everything I'd built crumble because of one mistake, one careless moment. The older we got, the harder it became to hide. We weren't kids sneaking around anymore, we were grown men with families, responsibilities, and reputations. Every interaction was under scrutiny. Every family gathering came with eyes, phones, cameras. It wasn't as easy to steal moments in the dark. But somehow, we still found ways. And every time we did, the risk felt sharper. I remember one night in particular. My wife and I had gone to visit family out of town. He was there too. After dinner, when the house was finally quiet, he slipped into the guest room where I was staying. I hadn't expected it, and the shock made my pulse thunder in my ears. "We can't," I whispered, panicked, glancing at the door. He smirked that familiar smirk, the one that always weakened me. "Relax. They're all asleep." But I wasn't relaxed. Not at all. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant cough made me flinch. Still, when he kissed me, I gave in. The fear of being caught only intensified the hunger between us. And then, it happened. A soft knock on the door. I froze, my entire body going rigid. He slipped back into the shadows, silent as death. My wife's voice came through the door, low and sleepy. "You awake?" I scrambled, adjusting myself, forcing calm into my voice. "Yeah, just, couldn't sleep." There was a pause, then a yawn. "Okay, don't stay up too late." Her footsteps faded, but my heart didn't slow down for hours. After she left, he emerged from the corner, laughing softly at how pale I looked. "That was close," he whispered. But to me, it didn't feel funny. It felt like a glimpse into the inevitable. One day, someone would find out. And when that day came, there'd be no laughing. Only ruin. That brush with discovery should have been a wake-up call. It should have been the moment I finally cut ties and walked away. But instead, it only drew me closer. That's the insanity of forbidden desire, it thrives on danger. The closer we got to being exposed, the more intoxicating it became. But paranoia wasn't the only thing poisoning us. There was jealousy, too. As much as I wanted him, I hated the way he lived so freely in the world while our bond remained trapped in the shadows. He could date women openly, take them out, introduce them to the family without fear. I couldn't, and every time I saw him holding someone else's hand, my stomach twisted. One night, after too many drinks, I let it slip. "You don't get it," I hissed at him when we found ourselves alone. "You can walk around with them in daylight. I can't even look at you too long without worrying someone will notice." His jaw clenched, his eyes dark. "You think it's easier for me? You think I don't want to hold you in the open? You're not the only one carrying this weight." The argument spiraled, raw and ugly. For the first time, I saw cracks in us. The secrecy that had once united us now threatened to tear us apart. But even then, even in anger, when he pulled me close, I couldn't resist. That night ended the same way so many did, with me lying awake beside my wife, staring into the dark, drowning in contradictions. I loved him. I hated him. I needed him. I wanted him gone. The conflict ate at me. It made me restless, bitter, short-tempered. My wife noticed. She'd ask if something was wrong, if work was stressing me, if I was unhappy in our marriage. I always brushed it off, but deep down, I knew she felt the distance. I was there in body, but part of me was always somewhere else, with him. There was one more close call. It happened during a wedding. The reception was loud, music blaring, people dancing, but we slipped away for a moment. Just a kiss, quick, desperate, behind the hall. I thought we were alone. But when I opened my eyes, I caught a glimpse of someone at the corner of the hallway. A figure turning away. I'll never know for sure if they saw us. To this day, nobody has confronted me. But for weeks after, I lived in terror, waiting for the fallout. Waiting for whispers, for questions, for everything to unravel. Nothing came. Maybe it was just a stranger, someone who didn't even recognize us. Maybe it was someone who chose to stay silent. Either way, it was another reminder that our secret wasn't as safe as we like to believe. By then, I had lost count of how many times I told myself, this has to end. But the truth is, I didn't want it to. As dangerous, destructive, and shameful as it was, I couldn't imagine my life without him. And maybe that's what scared me most of all, not being caught, but being forced to let go. Because if I did, who would I even be without him? This is the part I've dreaded writing. The part where I step out of memory and into the present, where the past collides with the man I've become. For years, I lived two lives. The one the world saw, the husband, the family man, the dependable cousin. And the one nobody knew, the man who gave himself, again and again, to a love that wasn't supposed to exist. And now, sitting here with the weight of decades pressing down on me, I realize something I've never admitted, not even to him. I don't regret loving him. That may sound twisted, selfish, even monstrous. And maybe it is. But regret isn't the word. Regret is for things you wish had never happened. This, what he and I shared, was too real, too consuming, too much a part of me to wish away. What I regret is the way it hollowed me out inside. The lies I told, the vows I broke, the nights I lay awake with guilt eating at me while he slept soundly, unbothered. I regret that I could never fully give myself to anyone else, not even the woman who trusted me with her heart. She never found out. That's the cruelest part of this story. She went through our marriage believing she had all of me, when the truth was, a part of me always belonged to someone else. I smile in family photos, I kiss her in public, I hold her hand in church, but behind those smiles was a secret so dark it could have destroyed everything. Why tell it now? Why drag this out of the shadows after all these years? Because silence has become its own kind of prison. I've carried this secret like a stone in my chest, heavy and suffocating. I've watched my life unfold through the lens of guilt and shame, never daring to speak the truth aloud. And now, older, perhaps wiser, I find myself wanting freedom, not from what we did, but from the silence itself. I tell this story anonymously because it cannot be told any other way. If my name were attached, it would destroy lives. My wife, my family, even him. I won't do that. But here, in this confession, I can finally breathe. I can finally put words to the chaos I've lived with all these years. People will judge me. They'll call me a sinner, a coward, a man who betrayed everything sacred. Maybe they'll be right, but unless you've lived this kind of secret, unless you've felt the pull of forbidden love, you'll never truly understand the war it wages inside you. Do I still see him? That's the question everyone would want answered. The truth is complicated. Life has a way of pulling people apart, even when hearts remain tethered. We both got older, settled deeper into the roles society demanded of us. The chances to be alone grew fewer, the risks too high. Somewhere along the way, the physical part of us faded. But the bond, that never died. Even now, when I look at him across a crowded room, when our eyes meet in a way nobody else notices, I feel it, the unspoken truth that we will always carry. A truth that binds us beyond blood, beyond morality, beyond the lives we pretend to live. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what my life would have been if we'd walked away that very first time. If I'd had the strength to resist him, to shut the door before it ever opened. Would I be happier? Would I feel lighter? Or would I spend my days haunted by the ghost of what might have been? I'll never know. What I do know is this: love doesn't care about rules. Desire doesn't follow logic. And once you've crossed certain lines, there's no way back. That's the secret I thought I'd never tell anyone. That's the truth I've carried like a scar beneath my skin. My cousin brother and I crossed boundaries we were never meant to cross. We lived a love that could never be named, never be celebrated, never be seen in the light of day. It was wrong. It was intoxicating. It was everything. And now, for the first time, I've told it. Not to seek forgiveness. Not to make excuses. Just to finally let the truth exist outside of me. Because sometimes the heaviest secrets aren't the ones that destroy you. They're the ones you never give voice to. And now, at least, mine has been spoken. Thank you for staying with me through this journey of confession and vulnerability. Stories like this aren't easy to tell, but they're even harder to carry alone. By sharing mine, I hope someone out there feels less isolated in their own hidden battles, mistakes, or desires. If this story touched you, shocked you, or made you think twice about the weight of secrets, we've achieved something real together. Your support, whether through reading, sharing, or simply listening, means the world. Stay tuned for more true stories of love, betrayal, and hidden truths. Until then, take care of your heart, and remember, the most dangerous secrets are always the ones left untold. Asterisk. Sometimes the most dangerous affairs are the ones no one will ever discover. My wife never found out, my family never suspected, and yet, I live every day with the weight of what I did. This story isn't about pride, it isn't about shame, it's about truth. Because secrets like this, they burn you from the inside out. And now, at least, I'm not the only one carrying it anymore. If you've made it this far, you already know this channel isn't about ordinary stories, it's about raw, unfiltered truths that most people are too afraid to share. Every week, we bring you anonymous confessions, true infidelity stories, forbidden love tales, and secrets that could never be spoken aloud in the light. So if you don't want to miss the next jaw-dropping confession, hit that subscribe button now and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to be the last to hear the stories everyone else will be talking about in 2025. Subscribe today, join our growing community, and never miss another true infidelity story. Asterisk.